All right, welcome everybody. We've got our next presentation here on super savvy haltering and feeling diagonals by posting. So it's gonna be a fun evening. I'm very excited about it as usual. Just a little bit of etiquette about Zoom. Just don't forget, if you need to go do something, feel free to mute and don't take your phone in the bathroom. There was another one of those I saw on TV this week, and it was pretty obvious, and it was very embarrassing, and I believe it had something to do with the Supreme Court of the United States. So be super careful about that. No stories. And we've actually been having some Zoom dinner parties with some friends of ours, and that's been working out really well. In fact, I spoke to a good friend of mine who's doing a lot of Zoom. He works for a little company called Progressive. And he's saying that they're actually getting to know each other better because everyone's at home and the dogs are jumping in the frame and the kids are interrupting. And so there's some good that can come of this too. For me, it's been very interesting to keep the video camera going and share the breakthroughs that we're all having. And I would like to keep this going too. That my intention was doing so many private lessons, there was all these great things happening. It's like, boy, it would be cool to have a format to share these breakthroughs with everybody so everybody can learn and figure things out together. So that's the intention. I'd like to keep doing it. I'd like to move forward with it. But what I'd like to do is switch to once a month because there's an awful lot of horsemanship opportunities now via video conference. And I feel like every week is getting to be like too much. So with your permission, we're going to switch to monthly. And so the next one of these, mark your calendars, is June 13th. So that's about 4 weeks from today. And we'll figure out the theme of that. And if you want, I'll create another Facebook event or email me if you have a request or something usually comes up. And also, if you want some video lessons or working with this great format of Facebook lessons, or I'm sorry, FaceTime lessons, it's really going really well. I'm very excited about it. And of course, we are gently, very carefully in the state of Ohio opening one little thing at a time, it feels like. And so private lessons have started and we have our first clinic next week, but there's lots of protocols in place. And if you want more information on those protocols or how we're dealing with that, it's at pompei.com. Super. Also mark your calendars. This Thursday, I think David Lichtman will be doing a question and answer on Parelli, the Parelli question and answer thing. That's a Savvy Club benefit. And some guy named Tom Pompei will be doing one in July on the 16th about Parelli principles out on the trail. So mark your calendars. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. Old business, if there's any questions about previous, what came up, please shoot those questions over to me. I'd love to be able to answer them. And does anybody have any current questions that they're dying to make sure that I answer right off the bat, or confusions? Brain cramps? Yeah, Marianne, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Marianne.
Hey, hi, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are things in Florida?
Good. Kid continues to improve. We've been doing a lot of riding and I'm just excited about that.
Super.
My question is from last week and we talked about falling leaf and backwards S, right? Or S. So my question is, I've been working on those with Kid and going the backwards S. When he turns to go in front of me, is he to cross over and walk kind of sideways or just directly in front of me? It seemed when I was watching you last week, your horse was doing a little bit of crossover, going a little bit sideways, and I'm not sure exactly how that's supposed to go.
Good question. Yeah, crossover and a little sideways is definitely okay because it should. What you're wanting to do is push the horse, like, let me get the camera right. So you're pushing the energy like this so that the flexion will go from an aerial view. So you're pushing the horse with your energy like that. Even though you're backing up, you're pushing the horse like that so that they come around and do a nice curvy S. So you can determine which area to push. Like if the shoulders are kind of collapsing towards you, which is common, push the shoulder. If the ribs are dumping in towards you, then push the ribs. Whatever body part is the closest. And so then you'll end up with a nice carvy flexion. The point of the backwards S is to be pushing the shoulder or pushing the horse in a flexion.
Okay.
Does that answer that question? That was a really interesting question. No one's ever asked me that before.
No, yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing that came up is a lot of times if you're working on a draw, you're trying to get your horse to speed up to you, and that would look different. So on a backwards S, you'd be sending the horse over there and pushing the horse over there and pushing the horse over there. On a draw, you'd be saying, hey, come on. And you might put some energy behind the horse with your stick out to the side. Well, what happens a lot is a horse will then turn sideways or not draw straight to you. So if the draw is happening, you're asking for a straight draw straight to you, and the horse goes this way instead, you go that way and draw them then like that. And if you're asking for that straight draw again and they go this way, you go this way, the opposite, which is kind of counterintuitive. You'd think if they went crooked, you might want to move your body over here and match them. But it's better to make them work and come straight again. Straightness comes, this is really interesting, and I found this fascinating. Linda and Pat were showing this because somebody said, well, I want to work straightness. I don't want all these body bends. Well, if you have a body bend like that, so everybody hold your hand up like that, like a karate chop, like a banana. Okay, so that's one way. And you have another body bend like that. Okay, so what happens to a lot of horses is, so put your hands together like this, and they're working like this, which is not ideal. You're pushing against pressure to get the bend. So here's something that's going to freak you out. Take your hands and go like that. So they're crossed. Now do it. This is what I want your horse to feel. So there's no pressure there, but they're just loose and able to do a slight body bend either way with no tension. So here, if you tried to do that, it's like, there's tension. You're pushing against. There's freedom. So your horse needs to be able to go like that and be able to go like that. Once they get that equalized, then they start to feel they could do anything. Whereas here, I've met a lot of horses that bend one way but don't bend the other, or don't bend at all. They're very straight, very locked through their body, not just their neck. So that's something to kind of keep as a neat little concept. Great, Marianne, thank you. Didn't think you'd get such a long answer, did you? Oh, I had the instructors get together, and we've been doing this for years, get together with Pat about once a month. And we were talking a bit about claustrophobia in horses, and the idea of horses that pull back came up, and what that means and stuff. So it was very interesting to me because we delved pretty deep into some psychology about why horses are that way. So that was a real interesting topic as well. And it kind of comes into what we're about to go into with savvy haltering. So Pat says hi, everybody. Was anybody on the masterclass today? Yep, Marianne was on it. Diane was on it. Yeah. Oh, Carla was on it too. Excellent, excellent. I was teaching lessons and was not able to do it, but what a great idea. So you guys have to report to us at the end on how that went. Perfect. So let's go on to haltering with super savvy. So I thought I knew how to halter a horse until I started the Parelli program, and I thought, oh wow, there's a prescriptive way to halter the horse, and it's in the 4 savvies. And okay, so I did that, and I thought I knew that until I was standing around Pat Parelli, and he was watching me halter, and he fixed it. So I want to share with you a little bit about the why behind all of those little things, because if you have studied it, it's in the 4 savvies, but if you take it bit by bit, there's quite a big lesson in there about why to halter and what's going on with the haltering. So what I'd like to do is I'll show you, and I apologize, all the videos that I took of myself are not great quality. I didn't bother dressing up or anything. I just did it. I guess I want to be like you guys. Doesn't need to be fancy. So I'm pulling that up there, and then I get to make this the primary video. Spotlight video, boom. So there it is. It's obviously cold out. Mike, can you see that okay? Yes. Okay, good, thanks. So this is young Sticks. He's not that young really, he's 6. I just want to play it, and then I'm going to point out a lot of little things to you. All right, so first, if you watch right there, it's really, really very, 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 and I say very important for your safety and for connection, that you ask the horse to tip their nose right here. So here's a little personal challenge. I think once I learned this little bit, and somebody pointed it out to me, I believe it was Pat Parelli, that if you can keep your elbow tucked right there the entire time, you got it. In other words, your horse has to face you and be in flexion. So I overheard you guys talk about the Jesse Peters challenges that he's issuing, and they're awesome. One of them was to bridle your horse while seated or from the ground. This is a prerequisite to that, to make sure that your horse understands to bend. And then you'll notice Sticks a few times, he was okay for a little bit, and then something got his attention over there, and he stopped bending. So as you halter with Savvy, you still have some control. So I've been around horses, you get to this point right here, and something might really scare them and they spook. Well, you can still pull the nose towards you for safety and the butt would swing away. So you still have some control here. So there I went. I probably could have done that a little more gently, but maybe I was nervous that the camera was on. All right, so now I think I can get this in slow-mo. This might be too slow, too small to see, but my elbow is still in place. And right here, I've got one finger and one finger only on the nose, and I'm going to slide that up. One of the things we talked about, horses that pull back or are afraid of halters or are having issues with the haltering, the first place a predator usually goes to grab a horse is at zone 1, and they grab them there, something else grabs them from up here, and then it's all over. They can knock the horse over. And then, so every horse, it seems, has that idea programmed into them. The whole idea behind this savvy haltering is to convince the horse that you know that. So if I know that you know that I know that you're scared, then slowing down and taking this moment to not look like a predator when I hike that up is pretty darn important to a horse. Now, if you go with all your fingers there, it's like a claw coming at the horse. And, you know, horses that have been haltered a lot, they'll may not react, but boy, they can feel it. And what I discovered is once I started taking these steps, all of the horses relaxed more and were happier to be haltered, and the relationship got better. And it was all for these little things. So then one finger again, pulling back to the neck, and then snugging the halter. And you can see I'm doing a little micro, that's a nice expression. We're doing a little micro adjusting there with if I felt like I couldn't keep my elbow in place. So watch again, let's see if my elbow really did stay in place the whole time. Yeah, look at that, my elbow has not moved yet. Okay, let's watch that again. Everybody know why I'm doing that? A little scratching. Horses love that. Because if you make that, so right when you put this on, right there, if you make that little scratch happen every time, not only is it a halter, but it is a horse scratching tool. Zip, zip. Halter knot. There's plenty of examples on YouTube and on the web of the correct way to tie that halter knot. And then the last part of this, and I used to, I used to think I didn't really understand why that was so important, but watch what happens with my hand. You rub back to the neck and scratch the withers. The friendliest part on a horse is the withers. And so rubbing straight back like that, going right to the withers, is a real good friendly game. There's one other issue that I wanted to bring up, and that is, if you notice, I'm passing my left hand underneath the horse and picking it with my other hand. And then the other thing that's tricky that I see a lot of us miss, watch this hand. Did you see how I opened that little gap there? Watch that hand again. See how I used my fingers and opened that up? Then it slips on much easier. And it's, again, not predatory. It opens that up and the horse can put his own nose right into it. And he'll put his nose into it, especially if he knows that scratch is coming up. There's the rub back to the withers. Clearly, I wore my best hat for this too. Yikes. Okay, does anybody have any comments or confusions about that? Let me see if I can figure out how to turn off the withdraw, cancel spotlight video, boom. Okay, comments or confusions about all that one? Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, probably a really dumb question, but is it given in that much detail on the Savvy Club? Because that did reveal things I do not remember ever seeing.
Ah, good. That is on the Savvy Club, but he goes fast. It's on the 4 Savvies. He goes
Okay.
through it really fast, and it's all in there, and you'll see him do it. But there's probably a little, being able to slow it down like that, I probably gave a little bit more detail.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And I like even going through that, watching myself do it, because I tend to, I'm very muscle memory kind of person, and I was pleased that that's just, I don't even think about it anymore. I just, every time I halter, just that I scratch the withers. It's become ingrained in my muscle memory, and that is a good thing to say about horsemanship. I wish it was magic and you could just study this stuff and then go out and do it, and it magically was at a high level, a mastery level. Life doesn't work like that. I wish it did. So like I was level 4 in my head when I was still working on level 1, because I'd be studying those videos, you know. So, but there's a it's like an opera singer. They don't let an opera singer sing the most complicated aria first. There's a series of things you have to develop your voice and get it into your development. So take it nice and slow and watch Pat do it. He's an excellent resource, and he can help you out with that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Are you with your horse right now, Lisa?
Yes.
Cool. Very nice.
Can you see him?
Yeah.
Banjo, say hi. When he heard your voice, his ears did perk up.
That's cool.
Seriously.
Neat. Okay, great. Thanks, Lisa. That was awesome. Any other questions,
Thanks.
concerns, brain cramps? The first horse I did this with was Spark, and I couldn't believe how he changed. I mean, he wasn't bad. I mean, he just, you know, he'd kind of stand there and do it. And he was left brain introvert, and he'd do it and everything, but he wouldn't really get soft. You saw Sticks, how soft he got. He was like, oh, I love this. You know, it should be, we want to set these things up so there's no cortisol. We want the horses on dopamine as much as possible. And that's the other thing, Pat and I were talking about that with one of the things I've been working on is how do we get the horse to do this in a state of dopamine, not in a state of adrenaline? And so being less predatory is what that means. So sometimes we're not even aware we're predatory. I had a student, shall remain nameless. I hope they're not on. Double checking. I had a student doing the friendly game, and they looked like they were about to stab the horse. And I was like, stop. And the horse was about as steady of a horse as you could find. But when she changed that one little bit of body language, the horse was like, oh, thank you. Oh. And, we didn't even know it was a problem. Horses are so good at getting along that they'll hide that stuff from us pretty effectively. Great. So that's it for super savvy saddling with excellence. Next time, and I think Shakya kind of gave me the idea, we might want to do no hands-free farrier. That might be a fun topic. So the challenge would be, can you have your horse pick up their foot without using your hand? Ooh, that's exciting. So no pinching, no touching, hands-free. So that might be a fun little challenge to do. So we'll add that to the list next time on the 13th.
There's a question on there from Diane.
Question, I see Diane. Thank you, Mike.
Under chat.
Under chat, yes. Where does the throat latch lie? Across the jawline or the throat? Oh, I wish I had a horse head here. I do have a horse head here.
Mine probably isn't right.
All right, so yes, under the throat, right up under there. So that knot would go right up under there. And sometimes on the halter, depending on the fit, sometimes it ends up here, and that's not an ideal place. That could, if a horse really pulled back, that could cause some jaw damage. So it really does belong right back tucked into there. And a lot of times, especially on a new halter, I will notice it'll stretch a little bit. So like about 2 or 3 minutes or 20 minutes into a session, I'll readjust the halter. The other thing everybody needs to be aware of is right here, right on the horse's nose, there's the nasal cavity that goes up, and then right along here, there's paper thin bone. So if you ever get a chance to see a horse skeleton of a skull, that it's paper thin bone right by the nasal cavity. And you don't want your halter that low right on that paper thin bone, because it can bruise it or even break it. So it should be above that. So the next time you're with your horse, play friendly game with zone 1 and feel where the nose cavity is, and you can kind of feel that soft tissue. Then right about here is where the bone starts. This is a bad place for the halter. It should be up above that paper thin bone. That can be a problem. It's a problem with my horse Lightfoot. Somebody used a chain an awful lot with him when he was younger, and they just really damaged his nose. So he has a bump there, and somebody said, "Oh, your horse has the Parelli bump." And I went, "What? Not for me, it doesn't." I called it the Parelli bump. Like, so there was that. Good question. So yeah, right underneath, Diane, right underneath here, under the throat. Was that the question? Did I answer that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. On to the next thing. Yes, it is being recorded. Thanks, Tootie. All right, posting diagonals. Wow. So let me ask you guys a question. Why do we think about posting? So if anybody doesn't know what posting is, you're at the trot, the horse is trotting, and every other step you rise up off the saddle, off the horse's back. So what are some reasons for posting? And you can type your answers into the chat. And if you have no idea, you can type in, "I have no idea." What are reasons for posting? I saw somebody doing it, and I thought, well, that's kind of funny looking, because I started with Western and then learned about English, and we should have put you in an English saddle today, Mike, for that, because it's a lot easier in an English saddle to post. It really is. Okay, lots of great answers here. Let me scroll back and read some of them. Get the weight off the back. Rhythmic, it's easier for the horse. Rhythmic movement, weight off the back. Save the horse's back, up with that foot, because you don't have a gaited horse. Alleviate on you. Yeah, it's easier on you. Horse has a suspended trot, not comfortable to ride. Balance, be in sync with the horse, alleviating the back and not bouncing to balance left and right. These are great answers, you guys. Some equines, it makes staying with their movement a lot easier. To ride bigger trot, more easier for the rider horse. Kind to the horse's back, alleviate concussion on the back. Excellent. Being on the correct diagonal when posting helps set up the horse for maneuvers. Yes. Build leg muscles. Yes. I'm assuming they mean human leg muscles. Excellent. Good, good, good. So those are some great answers, everybody. I'm impressed. Really good. There's a lot to that. I think posting really probably came about for traveling great distances at a working trot where you needed to get like many miles done, because to stay in a gallop or canter really can burn the horse out, and you can get a lot of ground covered on a trot, and a posting trot will save the horse's back and your butt. When you're first learning this, it can seem like it's a lot more work, but like anything, when you get more proficient at it, and start to use the energy of it and not work against it, it actually is pretty nice to do. Our youngish horse Styx, whose development's kind of slow because of his medical issues, he very much prefers posting trot, and that might be for some of his ulcer issues. But it is a very good thing. I'll talk about it from an education point. From us, it's a very, very good, useful tool for balance. And I would say if you can get a pretty decent posting trot going, your canter's going to feel like butter. And that helps a lot with balance and developing balance. But it is, like I said, it's not something that happens overnight. So hats off to Mike today, because Mike was our guinea pig student who has never had a posting lesson. So he did it for the first time today on Miss Peaches. So that we'll be looking at a portion of that in just a second. And I want to show you a couple ways to go about finding it. Of course, at first, like if you're going in a straight line, it doesn't matter which diagonal pair you post on. So by a diagonal pair, I'm talking about let's say the left front and the right rear. Those hit on the trot, and then the other diagonal pair goes down on the trot. So it's trot, trot. And if you want more information on that, there's a very cool webinar that we did a couple weeks ago over on Pompei.com that has all kinds of footfall information in it. But anyway, if you're on this diagonal at a trot, you're actually going around this way to my right, probably your left on the screen. And then if you're on this diagonal with the back foot here, you're going this way. So I've always heard traditional riding instructors say you post, you go down and up with the outside front leg. The problem with that is the moment you look down, your balance is all off. And if you start to rely on the visual, you'll never get the body. So, or I shouldn't say never, but it's harder to get the feeling of feeling the diagonal. So I was lucky enough to last couple months ago have a short little private lesson with Linda, and we were working on something, and she said, please trot a 20-meter circle. And I went, oh, okay. So I'm trotting my 20-meter circle, and she said, please post. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I wasn't even thinking, and again, just like the halter, I wasn't really thinking whether I was posting on the correct diagonal or not. I just did it because I feel like I can feel it. I got to tell you, it's taken me years to feel that, like years of trying to figure that out, and then having somebody call out and say, just change diagonal time. Oh, sorry. And I'll change the diagonal, and the horse will go, oh, thank you, because it's easier on the horse. So I'll give you a few tips on it and a couple of exercises to help you find it. And it's all my guidance, or my vision of it is to help you feel what your horse is doing underneath you, because that's what great riders do. And if we start right off the bat, we can make it easier, not so complicated. But if you go out and try it and you get frustrated with it, shoot me a video. I'll help you out by video, or it could be a great topic for a private lesson. All right, you ready for this? Mike, are you ready for this? Is Mike's video ready for this? All right, spotlight video. Let's get out of there. So much for haltering. And there's the Mike movie. All right. Geez, Mike, you're coming off your horse there. Is that the spotlight video?
Yes.
Okay, I did a freeze frame here because part of this was standing in the stirrups. So Mike's horse Peach here is at the trot, and he's standing in the stirrups, which is really quite nice. And he's been working on this for quite a while. So he's relatively straight like this. And this gives you a platform. Can you see how he's out? It looks like he's just standing there. Okay, his butt's a little bit back, but that might just be the frame. So that's pretty darn good. The other thing that I like with this is his hands are still. So if we'll go back here a little bit in slow-mo. You see how he's getting this done and his hands are not interrupting the horse. And the other thing that I also like is Peach's diagonal pair has the same angle. And that's one of the definitions of collection. So I'm going to brag on Peaches a little bit because she's a cutting horse and she should not be able to do this. But we make no excuses. She's doing really well with contact. It's taken years and years to get her comfortable with contact. Standing in the stirrups is huge, and I believe standing in the stirrups and being able to do that is a prerequisite for having a decent posting, because I won't throw Mike under the bus, but if he started the lesson, I said, just go post, and with no instruction, I videoed that, and then I said, okay, stand up in the stirrups, and I videoed that, but he was really out of balance. This was after he was working on it for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then we'll ask Mike a little bit about what he experienced during that at the end here. But being able to stand is really super vital. Okay, so now we're going to back up here to another moment. So I want you to see, as he's doing this, we can get that box out of there. So his butt is down. Get my little pointer again. I should get a better pointer. So his butt's down, and then you can see that it's this diagonal pair that's on the ground. That's the left rear and the right front. And Peaches is going that way around to the left. So we'll take that forward. And now you can see Mike's come up on the other pair. Down on this pair. It's coming up on the other diagonal. Down on this diagonal. Up. So that one was the best one, because if you watch, you can actually see Peaches coming up. So just watch Peaches. Watch her top line. So as this leg extends, her whole top line rounds up and pushes Mike this way. Now, there's a couple remarkable things about this, and what I think is remarkable is, first of all, this is the first time Mike's posted. He's done a little bit of it, but not in a lesson and not collected like this. To be critical, not critical, but to let you know, he's coming way too far up. You don't need to come up that far. And that'll make it a lot easier on the muscles, on the human muscles. But your horse will allow you to get that timing. It's kind of funny backwards. Okay, let's watch it in real time in a second. Nice. And the other thing that's interesting about this is, as Mike's posting, you can see he's not coming straight up, he's coming that way, forward, and that is correct. Well, the earlier part of the lesson, Mike was doing it all himself, and his timing was off. So it really wasn't helping the horse much because the timing was just a little bit out. And the last little bit of this that I wanted to share was, it's kind of hard to see it at this particular angle, but I think we can start to see it. So right here, when Mike's coming out, you see his shoulders are on the circle. Mike's shoulders are on the circle. So if he's going to be down on that diagonal pair and come up, it helps to post slightly to the outside, slightly over that outside right shoulder. So instead of coming up in line with the horse, out that way just a little. Let's see if we can see that when he comes around here. And if you guys were watching real carefully, you noticed Mike was on the opposite diagonal there. All right. So what happens with the rhythm of this is you can experiment. And this is an exact 10-meter circle. We got it measured and everything with the cones. And that 10 meters is there for a reason. It's a great bender. It's a great banana, that 10-meter circle for horses. So on the 10-meter circle, it's way, way, way easier to feel the diagonals. But here's a great way to feel it also. So when you're riding a seated trot, which is challenging to do if you're out of balance, you'll notice that there's a little right and left motion in the horse. The rib swings. So watch Mike here, because he's going to do a seated trot. And I asked him to exaggerate the right and left. Can you see Mike sashaying back and forth there a little bit? Let's go on back. You can see Mike's going, there's to the left, there's to the right, there's to the left, there's to the right, there's to the left. It's hard to pick up unless you can really see it. So if you're ever wondering if you're on the wrong diagonal like that was, if you are posting, it goes post two, post two, post two, post two, post two. And if you want to change it, post two, post two, post two. That's all you have to do is sit twice. And then you'll be on the opposite diagonal. So what you can do, and I would encourage you to do that rather than look down at first. So go 1, 2, 1, 2. I wonder if I'm right. I don't know if I'm right or not. So switch it. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then see if it feels better or not. And then after that, look down and go, oh, look at there, I'm on the wrong diagonal, or oh, look at there, I'm on the right diagonal. So that's a nice way to do it. So if you're swinging like that, when you swing to the outside, that's the down. So I'm going, let's see, Mike would have been going right, left, down, up, down, up, down, up. So once you can feel the rib swinging, right, left, down, up, up. So watch again. I'll back that up because it's about to stop. I think you changed back there the wrong way. right, left, right, left, and you lost your impulsion. That was a good spot to see that. Excellent. So let's watch this little snippet again. So the last thing I want you to see is, I wasn't speaking during this, I was just running the camera, but here's the task Mike was doing, and this is brilliant, and it works really great. 5 steps of standing in the stirrups, 5 steps of posting, 5 steps of seated trot. So take a look at the whole sequence. 3, 4, 5. That's okay. I think I might have said at some point, hey, what happened to your standing? You're so focused on that. They're seated. And then standing. Posting. And like I said, I said this before, if you're going in a straight line, it doesn't matter what diagonal you post on. Like I've done long trail rides where I thought, well, I'll just do some posting and I'll just switch it up. And it helps the horse. Good job, Mike. So let me turn that off there and let's see if we got any questions. So that was a whole lot, but I was quite impressed that Mike really did hang in there. That was a lot for his first job posting, first lesson posting. Anybody want to have anything they want to add to that or subtract from that? Stunned silence. So Mike, could you go ahead and unmute yourself? And I got a couple questions for you. You might have to head to the other room. Get out! We should have tested that.
All right.
All right, that's better. So what was the hardest thing for you? What's your worst memory of that experience?
At the beginning, where I didn't have my balance. Good point, because I need to go back to the standing trot and get my balance point, and that helped a lot. And then early in the lesson, Peaches was not very collected. And
I think you're Mike. I think you're in a dead. You might be in a dead cell area.
A little more collected, and that. Okay. Is this any better?
Yeah. Yeah. So I heard you started to talk about her impulsion, and then you kind of dropped out. Why don't you come on over here? Why are we doing this? He's right here.
Technology.
Go ahead.
No, what I was saying was, the first part of the lesson, I just felt I didn't have my balance point, and so standing helped me a lot get that. And then Peaches was not very collected. She tends to, if you're not really careful with her, she tends to get her head way up, and it's a tougher trot to ride. And so we worked on that a little bit and got her in a better frame, and was riding with more contact, which I don't do a lot with her, but I was in this lesson. And once I got her collected, it was much easier to feel the post and get it right. And like Tom said, the first couple of times I was looking down to that right front to get the right post, and then I was getting off balance again. So Tom would call it out for me, and if I need to change, he would just say switch, and I'd switch and could feel the difference then overall. So but it's going to take some time, like he said, to really be able to feel it myself and know I'm on the correct diagonal and doing it.
It helps to get around a horse that can do it, so you don't have a lot of other behavior issues. So if you have a trusted friend that has a horse that is used to being collected and trotting, that is doing, that you trust, and you can feel it, because horses teach humans and humans teach horses. And so that was definitely a case of Peaches teaching you. But they do have to have flexion. If they are just going flat like that, boy, it's really hard to feel anything.
Yes, yeah, true. It made a huge difference. And it was just so much easier at that point in time.
Tell them about your rub. I thought you were going to tell them about the rub.
Well,
come on.
It's actually down on my. I was rubbing on my right leg on the fender of the stirrup. I got a pretty good red mark because we were at it for a little while this morning. So, and a lot of it was I was not. Again, it was earlier in the lesson, and I didn't really have my balance, and my feet were a little further forward than they should have been, and that's why I was rubbing so much and doing all the posting and kind of in a wrong position until I got more comfortable with it. So, but I'm good.
No blood, don't worry. Yeah, it's easy, and I tend to have that tendency in a Western saddle too, where I'll pinch a bit when I'm posting. Just right almost at the knee.
Mm-hmm.
And I've because of that rub, I've had to learn to, like, when I stand, I try to make sure I'm not gripping. It's easier to stand if you can grip with your legs, but don't. You can hold on to something, hold on to the saddle, grab the horn, whatever you need to do to find it, but try not to squeeze in with your legs, because you'll end up with not quite right balance.
Right.
It needs to be like, have you seen the jockeys? The balance these guys have, the race jockeys, it's remarkable. They're just in perfect balance, perfect stable balance. That's kind of what you're after, is that great balance point. So I would say your next lesson, you should get in the English saddle, because it helps you find your balance, and it is a lot easier. There's I'll find the exact video. I don't have it. I should have had it ready to go, but there's a really good video of Pat showing posting. And what you'll notice is, first of all, it's effortless. And secondly, he's not really coming that far out of the saddle. It's only just a little bit forward, a little bit forward. So that's definitely worth taking a look at. Anybody have any questions on all that stuff? Thanks, Mike. That was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Pam. And then Lisa next.
Yeah, I'm working with Jack, my two-year-old, and when I'm just starting to trot with him, and I'm just wondering how to, it feels really choppy, and I think now that you mentioned the head was up, what should I do to get him to lower his head?
For young horses especially, I would recommend always post the trot.
Okay.
It's easier on their backs, it's easier on them, and they tend to get it. Young horses especially will get real confused. They'll think canter at seated trot. So you want to wait until they're really getting a little bit farther along, and I would do a lot of posting. The question was, though, however, how do I get that horse's head down? I wouldn't do that yet in that horse's development. I'd be happy to get freely forward, just make some nice easy turns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good enough for now. And the more this you have, and through the neck, the more this and this, the less this.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Rather than
posting. So.
Yeah, and the posting will help him feel like he can do that, and stop the bad banana like that. So you'll get more like that. I just saw it was on that Facebook thing. Some people that were doing some trail riding, and they were starting a young horse, and they had the horse's head was tied down. They were ponying the horse, but the horse's head was tied down to the sides. And I just thought, oh man. And so their thought was, I need to teach this young horse to have his head down, so they tied his head down. And that's that creates a awful negative brace in the musculature of the horse, and certainly mentally doesn't do the horse any favors as well. So there's a much better way. Sticks is a great example of that. He rounds nicely, but he has this thing with his head that he flips his head, and so that's from some previous training, where somebody's taken the bit and kind of went bang, bang, bang like that. So he's waiting for that. So he's just kind of learned that. So whenever he gets his mental state into that, I just flex them this way or flex them this way, because it's really hard to do that when you're bent. So I just ask him for a little more banana, and he goes, oh, I won't do that anymore. It keeps coming back a little. It'll just bleed out and bleed away, you know. So the more flexion you can give, relaxed, the better. And then I would be very happy to freely forward posting and just do some snaky bends and stuff like that. Not make it, especially.
Thanks.
Somebody else had a question. Lisa, go ahead.
I don't know if you can answer this without seeing it, but I'm having trouble finding the balance point to stand up. And do you have any suggestions for that?
Usually, and I say usually, it's the feet are too far forward, like too far in a chair position.
Yeah.
And men and women alike, probably more so with men, we tend to have really tight hip, well, we all do, tight hip flexors. So any stretching you can do to loosen that helps. But getting the, I always feel like, this is just a me thing, I always feel like I need to get my feet freakishly far back in order to stand up. And then when I look at a video, I'm like, well, those aren't freakishly far back. That's where they're supposed to be.
Okay.
I sit down and go, oh, okay. So it's usually, without seeing it, I'm saying it's usually that the feet need to come back a little bit.
Well, that sounds familiar because that is what it feels like when I do finally get it. So, duh. But I wanted to also tell Mike, you guys, I got this trick from male endurance riders. If you still want to wear jeans and ride and post a lot, you can wear pantyhose underneath and your legs won't get chafed.
Nice.
Thanks, Lisa.
Mike said thanks.
Come shopping tomorrow.
Have fun with that.
Oh, that'll make a great video. That's hilarious. You know what I used to, I used to wear, I had some jodhpurs that were jeans colored jodhpurs. That helped. They had the strange, same material as jodhpurs, but they were jean looking like jeans.
Yeah, it seriously does. And you know, some guys aren't ready for jodhpurs yet, and it really works. But yeah.
Talking from a costuming perspective, I mean, there's just like a Western costume and an English costume. None of this stuff is Western or English at this level. The Western or English then starts to come into the sport specific area. But learning to post and learning diagonals and learning haunches in and leg yields and side passes, this is all Western or English. And that's sometimes a shock to a lot of folks, especially when they see, you know, some cowboy coming in and taking a dressage lesson and and asking about flying changes or asking about, you know, hip position on a travers or something like that. It's like, well, we didn't think you Western people did that. And it's like, well, good horsemanship is good horsemanship. And it's just like that kind of that tie down issue. One of the things Pat Parelli has been emphasizing with us and the instructors is, you know, Pat and Linda have changed the world, the horsemanship world. And it is their mission to preserve good horsemanship and preserve that. There's so many people that like look at something and just, you know, try to copy it without understanding it. And that's where that tie down idea on that young horse came into play, that somebody thought that was the way to do it. I'm sure their heart's in the right place. And I know this person, they love their horses. They absolutely take great care of them. But they saw something, didn't really understand it, and are just trying to fix it. Hi, dog. Hi, bro. They just want to be part of the show. Any other questions on that? Yeah, Marianne.
Okay, it's not on that, but can we back up for just a second? You said earlier about flexion helps you feel, and I lost the train there. What does it help you feel?
Flexion helps you feel the diagonals. So like I've been on a horse like Peaches was doing a beautiful job there with her flexion, and that's been relatively the last year and a half thing with her, because of her previous training. She was trained to bend her nose and go catch cows. There was no through the bodiness to her. So as she developed more of that flexion, you can start to feel the horse in the diagonals. Without flexion, so the horse is straight like this and you're riding a trot, you're probably going to be bouncing a lot and you're not going to feel that side to side. As the horse is stepping their hindquarter, their ribs need to get out of the way a little bit, so you get this little side to side thing if they have this concept of flexion going on when they're trotting. So this is cool. This camera shows it really nicely if you could picture that as a horse. So there's a little side to side there because of the action of the back legs. So without any flexion, you won't feel that. You'll just get up and down. You'll get no side to side. I remember my first posting lesson, somebody said to me, "You seem to get that up and down thing pretty good. You need that side to side thing." I'm like, yeah, that's probably right. And I was going bang, 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 my poor horse. Oy.
So that'll help, because I'm struggling still with footfalls. So that'll kind of help you with that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, big time. Because the hind quarter foot is stepping under in that moment when you're coming side to side. So that's probably a good topic for another meeting, because it ties into the game we played last week, where we influenced each foot on a hind quarter and forequarter yield. Well, you can feel that same moment of influence when you're riding. So there's a level 4-5 concept, but you guys are ready for it. So let's talk about it. So if you can feel the horse lift their foot up, that's the moment you can influence the move. So this learning to post your diagonals is a really, really good prerequisite for knowing when to ask a horse to go sideways, or when to ask them to do a partial disengage. Because you have two moments. It could be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. It could be either of those two. And when you start to feel, oh, when that rib goes this way, then I can add a leg right there and influence the next step. That's a little heady, but it can be done. And once you start to realize footfalls when you're riding, you become a much better rider just automatically, because your body's now really doing what the horse is doing. And that's the definition of excellent riding, is just doing your body what your horse is doing. It's that simple.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm laughing, I hope you all laughed at that, right? Because it's just that simple. And it is, I mean, it really is. But it doesn't, it's like, it's learning to be an opera singer. Well, anybody, I right now, I'm not going to do it because I don't have that great of a voice, but I can sing a great aria. I can hit the note, maybe. I can hit some of the notes, maybe the easy part, but it would be silly to not have all those prerequisites in place and have my muscles developed to be able to do it. So this is where freestyle is so vital for you. First, to understand where the horse is going, indirect, direct rein, all those things come into play, and then starting to put that finesse on it when you're ready. If you're not sure you're ready for finesse, look at finesse level 4, and right at the very beginning of it, there's a nice explanation by Pat of what you should have in your freestyle before you start really doing finesse. But you can pepper in some finesse things. And I think that's a really good thing to do. Some relaxed rein things. There's tons of them. Any other burning questions? Cool. Let's give away a mug. Oh, bye, Lisa. Bye. Phone's dying. Lisa just said her phone's dying. Gotta go. Recently heard the phrase bend erases brace. Oh yeah. Would you elaborate? Is it jaw? Is it neck? Is it shoulder, ribs? I've seen horses bend and run sideways. Where is sequencing or mind? Yeah, nice. The answer to that is it jaw, neck, shoulder, ribs? The answer is yes. It can be any of that. This is a really good question. The phrase is bend erases brace. So who's ever heard rubbernecking? Yeah, so rubbernecking, like if you're driving, it's like, oh, what was that? But I've seen horses do that when somebody just bent them and they still raced forward or raced sideways or did something, and they're just, their head's bent and they can just, you know, go off anywhere. That's called rubbernecking. So that's not really bending. The bending should be coming through the horse's whole body, ribs, jaw, shoulder, hindquarter, all the way through. So that's what we talk about when we talk about bending. And the more you can supple that bending up, the better there's no brace. So Lightfoot's a great example of that. And I hope I have some footage of him when we first got him. I probably do, where he had so many braces inside of him, and he still has them a little bit, but they're mostly all gone now. All these braces where instead of this, he's like, his hindquarters flat, he's bent here, and you know, then he'll do that, and it's just like, and then he races off that way, and then pulls you by the. There's all these weird things. So the more that we've got him moving comfortably, slowly in this bend, the better. And whatever zone is bumping out is the one to work on. So say they're dropping their shoulder, which is the most common thing, maybe dropping the shoulder in. Well, you could take an inside leg and push the shoulder out, and then look, you've just made more flexion. Oop, he's dropping the shoulder again, more flexion. So a lot of inside leg when you're riding helps that. Is it jaw, neck, shoulder, ribs? It's usually nose and neck first, and working its way back. When you get into higher levels of finesse and things like that, you start talking about rounding the horse, and getting them engaged first. They need to have relaxation. They need to have impulsion together. There's some, Linda's got some great things. The lead change ladder that she does is really, really good. There's a lot of materials in Linda's finesse manual that address this really well. So I'd point you to that resource as well. That's really good. And all this stuff Linda is distilling from all these dressage masters, because she's just so good at that. If you haven't seen her ride jazz recently, she's doing some great things. It's amazing. Good questions. Sandy, did that answer that well? Do you have anything you want to add to it? Not sure. I know if Sandy's still on here or not. Oh, there she is. Yeah, she still is. Cool. All right. Well, that does it for today. We promised to give away a mug. So we have these beautiful H&P mugs that have our logo on the front here. They're really nice. They're really nice like this. So I got to come up with a question. I never planned this ahead, so I really should. Yeah, these mugs are awesome. They're company that makes them. They're all ceramic and baked in. They're really, really nice quality. They microwave well. They clean easy. They just feel good in your hand. It's the same company. Yeah, they do look like the Parelli mug. It's the same company that makes the Parelli mug. We just put a different design on it, a different color. Cool. All right, so here's the question. The question is, when haltering a horse, nope, I'm not going to ask that question. That's too hard. The question is, if the horse is trotting to the left, what diagonal pair is the down on the post? The horse is trotting to the left. What diagonal pair is on the down post? And by the way, I call diagonal pairs from the back end. So Mike, are you watching the chats?
Yes.
Because you'll have to figure out who got it right, because a whole bunch of people just went, I got it. Everybody's typing. So I said the horse was trotting to the left. So what diagonal pair? So it should be left hind, right front. So if you said left diagonal pair, that would be a correct answer. If you said left hind, right front, that would be a correct answer. Cheryl. Cheryl, congratulations, Cheryl. All right, woohoo. Now there's a caveat, you have to come get it. So it'll be here waiting for you, or if I'm up in your neighborhood, we can make a drop-off arrangement. And you have to fill it yourself though. All right, cool. There's Shaki's got the Parelli one too. I have one of those in my horse trailer. I take it camping with me all the time. Excellent. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. We will see you, if I don't see you sooner, we'll see you on June the 13th for the next one of these. And we'll have lots to do, lots to catch up on and see what's happening. And keep it natural, keep studying. Let me know what I can do to help you. TomPompei.com has all of my stuff. And don't forget, keep it savvy. All right, let's do a savvy clap. Savvy. And we're out. Stop recording. And hit